It's a special wedding week edition of Trial Tuesday. And you know what? Everyone likes to have a little fun at their wedding reception, right? But what happens if and when things go too far? So attorney David Ayler is here with legal advice for all the brides and grooms out there who plan on serving alcohol at their wedding. David, as always, welcome.
Well, thanks for having me. Good morning.
This is a very good morning. It's a very important topic.
Right.
You know, things can quickly, have a little fun, maybe get out of control. I guess just start with the basics, like who's responsible?
Well, that's an interesting question there because there's really a combination of
Sure.
people that could be responsible. You have, of course, where the event occurs, and looking at those owners as well as their insurance. Also, if you have a company that comes in that is providing the alcohol, like a bar service or bartending service. And then, of course, ultimately, the bride and grooms themselves, because it is their event in the end. We're
Okay.
supposed to be, at least, right?
That's a lot of like weightiness to take in as you're celebrating your marriage. So as we're planning, what should we look when we're booking a venue or booking a bar service? What are specific things the bride needs to look at?
Well, there's a couple things. First of all, when it comes to the venue, you want to make sure that it's a venue that's used often and something that can handle the type of crowd and the amount of people that you're having. Sometimes people try to put weddings in places they shouldn't be, outside of maybe whether or not they should get married at all in the first place, right?
That's a whole different issue.
Yeah, that's a whole different issue. But essentially, you'll see sometimes some liability things that'll come up simply because they're putting in a wedding somewhere that maybe there's some safety precaution issues and things like that that can really come back to haunt you, because yes, they may go against the event themselves as far as where it is, but they also can come against you because ultimately you're the one paying for that place. You're the one that's responsible for it. Beyond that, of course, you want to look at if you are going to serve alcohol. Obviously, weddings and receptions are a time of celebration often, and sometimes they get a little out of control. So you want to be careful with who you bring in. And when I say who, I mean what companies you bring in as far as the catering services, and specifically regarding, who's going to supply the alcohol and who's actually going to pour the alcohol, because a number of times you have situations pop up where you have people that are underage drinking. That can be an awkward situation because they're there as caterers and providers, not to be carding people, but at the same time they have to make sure the laws are followed. And then of course outside of that, just over serving people. They're at your wedding, that's your event, they are overserved, something then ends up happening to someone they're with or maybe in another vehicle. They absolutely may come back to you, no different than when you see a situation within a bar or restaurant where a person's been overserved.
So is this something we should discuss if we're booking a venue or a bar service, with the caterer, with the bar service, put a drink maximum, or do you need to tell them to watch your guests?
You see that sometimes, but in reality, I think what the most important thing you can do is make sure you know who you're using and make sure those professionals understand exactly what you want and how you want it done. It doesn't have to be an awkward situation where you're, have this uphill battle or concern that something's going to happen. But you have a reputable venue and a reputable cater service or bartending service, you're probably going to be okay. And we know Charleston has a lot of those. However, sometimes though, when people try to cut corners, that's where the issues really start to happen.
So let's talk about underage drinking, because I know I've been at plenty of weddings where, uncles giving the nephew a few drinks.
Right.
You want to avoid that, I guess, obviously.
You want to try to, obviously. I mean, I think to some degree it's inevitable that it may happen and, you can't control it ultimately. But if you have a bunch of teenagers continuing to go to the bar and no one's stopping them, that's something that could get real dangerous quickly.
What about busing? Is that a good idea to consider, like if you're away from where your hotel is, providing transportation for people?
Yeah, I think it's a great idea, and it's something we're starting to see a whole lot more of. Is they'll provide rides. A few weddings I've been to, there'll be signs up or a phone number or whatnot.
So smart.
Even if it's not a bus, just like some taxis or Uber available there, so that you can get their ride back. Particularly for people from out of town, really don't know where they're driving and probably shouldn't be driving anyway.
All right, David Ayler, great information
Thanks for
as
having
we
me.
celebrate Wedding Week right here on Low Country Live. Stay with us. We've got much more right here in just a minute.